You are now tuned into Flippin' the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 56 of Flippin' the Birds, brought to you by PSN Radio. I'm Brian Cameron. He's Chris Infante. And unfortunately, we are here to discuss why the Eagles are 0-2. The first time since 2015.
15.
Wow.
The sound of that before was the sound of me getting ready to drown my sorrows away again.
I'm actually not going to waste a drink on the Eagles tonight because I want to be level-headed for this conversation because it's grown very frustrating to see what we're seeing on the field right now. And if Chris has mentioned this multiple times, we are big Eagles fans, but we are not going to be biased on this podcast. We're going to be as transparent as possible. We're going to be as realistic as possible because the reality right now is that the Eagles are not who we expected them to be coming into the season.
Like, again, we try to be so realistic, and I know, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm not the most realistic.
Thank God I said this podcast because your Twitter is out there. Your Twitter is unicorns and rainbows for the Eagles fans.
It's I wish for players that whatever. And I came out with my predictions as I do every year, and I had them going 2-0 to start the season. As did a lot of people.
Everybody.
As did a lot of people.
Let's be honest,
there's no way you would have said. I mean, the Washington defensive line, we knew about that, but we knew we could counteract it with our defense because the Washington offense stinks. And after 2 games, like, the Washington team got their asses kicked by the Cardinals when their Cardinals defense stinks.
But the Cardinals have a player that we did not trade for.
Yeah, okay, but on both sides of the ball. One is Patrick Peterson and one is Hopkins. But now Haskins is averaging only 200 yards a game. 200 yards a game, and we lost to that. He only had 178 versus us anyway. But, so he had actually a better day if he's averaging 200.
Their best receiver didn't cross the 100-yard mark like he always did against us.
Yeah, so Terry McLaurin got locked down, and then he destroys Cardinals last week. And we lost to the Washington. And then this debacle that we just saw a couple days ago, like, it was just there's something, and I hate to say this, there's something going on, whether it be between Doug and Carson, whether it be between Howie and Doug, Jeff and Doug, Jeff and Howie.
I have a big theory about it.
There's something not meshing right. And I just don't think that there's a trust issue there. And I don't want to – I've heard some rumblings, and I don't want to say anything because I don't want to talk out of place. But I've had my own feelings that were kind of confirmed by what I've heard. But there's something going on there. And it's a shame because I feel like we haven't seen this kind of – discombobulation since the T.O. and McNabb stuff. I mean, we saw it with Chip Kelly and Howie.
But not to that extent.
But, like, what if Chip was right? What if Howie's just a numbers guy? And that's why we see year after year new personnel guys come in.
Not only that, but look at the draft picks.
Like,
it's all about what they did in the college level.
I hate to give Chip any credit because I hate him. But, like, at least he knew the type of players that would fit his system.
That's very interesting.
And he went for that. Like, he didn't care about taking Aguilar in the first round because he felt Aguilar fit his system, And I believe that was a Jordan Hicks also that year. Was it?
Jordan Hicks was phenomenal when he came out.
Um, you know, I gotta double check. I don't remember. That was Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe was that draft. We see him leave a year after, 2 years after,
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't fit the system with Jim Schwartz, and then he's a really good corner now for Miami. I believe he went to New England, and I think he's on Miami now.
Yeah.
And he's not out of this world corner, but he's a legitimate corner, and we're seeing that now with Rasul Douglas. But you know, and so we look at Jordan Hicks, who of course he had all the talent in the world. We knew that, but was he healthy? And that's another thing we have to go through with these Eagles franchises.
Which he's actually been pretty healthy in Arizona.
He has been pretty healthy. Last year, he played all 16 games,
Mm-hmm.
and he had 150 tackles. Like the last time he played 16 games for the Eagles was in 2016, and he had 85. This year, he's 2 games in, and he has 16 tackles. So he's averaging 8 a game. He had 91 in 12 games in 2018, his last season with us. He had 28 in 7 games in 2017, 85 in 2016, and 50 in 8 games in 2015. So we knew the talent was there, it's just the health. And now he's healthy, but it's like all these players that leave are getting healthy elsewhere. You know, we don't hear about the really injuries of the ex-Eagles because they don't really get injured when they're an ex-Eagle. They get injured when they're an Eagle. So it's no matter who it is, new director of medical, new director of strength, new whatever. It's this. There's the same common denominator, and it's Doug and Jim. It's really the only two. Like, I mean, we have positional coaches that are the same since 2016. And Howie,
but what I'm curious about though is, I don't know if it's possible to even look this up, but so this weekend we saw Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas both get injured at MetLife, and the 49ers players can't complain about the turf at MetLife. Could it be possible that the same issue in MetLife is the same issue at the Link with the turf? Because there's no team that gets injured like this team. No team.
But it's not even at home. They don't even get hurt at home. They get hurt everywhere. Like they get.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because
it doesn't matter the turf or grass or whatever.
So yeah, disregard that one.
They could be playing on the street and they're still gonna get hurt because they're an Eagles player. Like as soon as you put on that like Jalen Reagor was never hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He comes here, he's hurt. I mean, he's playing now, but like he hurt his shoulder in training camp. Miles Sanders was one of the healthiest players in college football.
Mm-hmm.
He comes here and he has a hamstring injury. Like
back-to-back seasons.
It's what the hell's going on? And then, and now we have all these reports now, the Sal Paolantonio report today. And then we have, before last week, we had the report that there's like rumors that people think that Doug Peterson has reached his limit, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
We have that now. And then we have Doug's really standoffish comments about Carson yesterday. And like it's like, and we'll get into how much I hate Jim Schwartz in a minute, but it's like a night and day press conference where yesterday
it's like Dr. Jekyll and what is it, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, so we have Mr. Hyde, by the way, is one of my favorite pre-workouts for the gym. So just a little plug for you guys out there who likes pre-workouts. Yesterday, Doug's, why would Jay Jaw, the one targeted on that play?
Good question.
And he pauses.
Good question.
That's definitely one that he'll want to get back. He wants back. Whereas Jim today put it all on himself. Like, that's what a coach should do. Maybe we should have heard yesterday, that's how it was drawn up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll reevaluate.
What it is.
We'll throw. That's a play that we're gonna reevaluate and see. Different reads and all that. Instead of just saying, yeah, that's one he wants back. Jim today says he put his players in bad positions. I'm of the opinion, as are hundreds of other and thousands of other Eagles fans, that no matter what position Jim puts his players in, they're still going to fail because we have bad players for the bad scheme. But we'll get into that in a minute. But it's just there's so many issues for this team, and I think we were like blindly hoping that those issues wouldn't come up before the season because we were so ingrained with, oh shit, they're going to be negative $1 billion next year.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they win this year, blah, 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 where we wouldn't really see.
We were distracted by a lot of things this offseason.
Yeah, we were distracted by the future and not really worried about the present and worried about all the issues that are going on there. And, Jason Peters doesn't move like he used to anymore. We have another injury on the offensive line. Is Isaac Seumalo. We have accuracy issues up the ass with Wentz. We have, he's throwing way too high. He's throwing it away when he actually has someone who he could have thrown to. He's forcing it when he should have thrown it away. Mm-hmm. It's rough.
So I have a theory, and I'm going to need you to go on this ride with me and hear me out, because you may agree, you may disagree.
That's usually how it goes. You either agree with something or you disagree with something.
No, I'm saying, but
that's usually how it goes.
You in general, because usually, we disagree. But hear me out. We went into this offseason with, as fans, as media members, we went into this offseason expecting the Eagles to do what on offense? To add
explosion.
So we're thinking wide receivers. We're thinking possible backup running back. The Eagles draft Jalen Reagor in the first round. Then the second round comes around. They draft Jalen Hurts. Everybody's stunned by it. Now, my question to you, before I keep on going on, do you honestly think Doug sat there and said, you know what? Let's draft a quarterback in the second round.
I really think Jeff had a hand in this. I think.
So hold that thought right there. So before the draft, Doug goes out at the presser. Mike Rowe and Carson Walsh are returning. Next day, they're fired. Then we bring in Rich Scangarello, Marty Morningway. Press Taylor is offensive coordinator, not offensive coordinator. They bring in the kid from college, Brian. I always forget his last name, who's a pass game analysis.
Brian, Andy Briner. I think it's
Andy Briner. My fault. So they bring all those voices in the room. Doug now has 14 offensive assistants in the room. Now, obviously, this is not a Doug thing. So now you draft Jalen Hurts, and if I'm Howie and I'm Jeff, I'm thinking like this. I'm going to draft this quarterback because if Doug Peterson's offense is actually getting stale and is actually declining, then I'm going to have a backup plan. I'm going to have a rookie who's going to learn this offense. This will be the only offense that he's ever learned in the NFL. And I'm going to risk complicating things for my franchise quarterback who's already struggling with no playmakers. Are we at a point where Jeffrey Lurie has become the Eagles' worst enemy? Like Jeff McClain said that Lurie swayed Peterson into believing that you had to get rid of Groh and Walsh. He swayed Peterson into believing that he needed all these voices around him. And now if you look at Doug Peterson's demeanor, Doug is acting like a guy who's in a room full of people he doesn't like.
I'm of the belief, and I've also heard this around town.
Okay.
Jeffrey Lurie is dipping his hands in the cookie jar a little too much.
A little too much is a very, very
lenient.
He's going body diving in there.
I don't want to say he's Jerry Jones because he's not.
But he's sneakily getting
borderline Jerry Jones. But I feel like he's like to the media and everything. Great guy. I think he's a great guy. He's
phenomenal guy. Yeah,
phenomenal person. But I think when he's away from the cameras, he might not be that guy anymore. And
think about it. Doug sits with him and Howie every week.
Yeah, but we have to go back to 2016, and thank God we did not get Ben McAdoo.
Doug wasn't even the first option.
Doug was not the first option, and I think that stays with him, even with the Super Bowl win. The Super Bowl win kind of prolonged everything because I feel like if the Eagles had won that Super Bowl in 2010, Doug may have been gone maybe last year.
So it opened the playoffs for Doug.
So absolutely. I feel like that helped him go further, but usually coaches who are not the first or not even this, I don't even think he was the second choice. Usually don't really stay that long. They usually are the placeholder for when another guy comes along that they really want and they move on. They wanted Ben McAdoo. I forget who else was available that year that they wanted, but I don't it wasn't. I know I think
was
they
a couple people.
I think they
About
looked
three.
at Pat Shermer too,
It
because he was the interim,
was 2 or 3 people that they wanted.
and but Doug, like if Doug was the one they wanted, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. Because they would be going with their guy.
They'll feel lenient. You wouldn't see all this movement every offseason of new voices added. You wouldn't see my opinion. You would not see your top 5 talent quarterback struggling to get the offense moving. Right now, I feel like Carson's in a place where the offense may have gotten a little complex, or either that he's listening to too many voices and doesn't know who to listen directly to.
I actually think Adam Gase was an option.
Oh yes, he was. That was before he went to Miami.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
And, he's gone. But it's like, Deuce was another one was considered. So Pat Shermer, another one. So Adam Gase, Doug Peterson, Terrell Austin was defensive coordinator for the Lions. They were linked to Doug Marrone. They were linked to Sean Payton, but that was never going to happen.
That was not going to.
Yeah. They were really interested in Ben McAdoo, like we said. Dirk Cotter at the time, he was a Buccaneers offensive coordinator. So there was a lot of other names other than, they really want Doug Peterson, which is true for every coaching search.
But my thing is, if the guy gets you to a Super Bowl in a year that you were not expecting to reach a Super Bowl, what the hell are you doing with tinkering with the man's work? He knows how to – Doug Peterson, whether anyone wants to deny it, he knows how to run an offense. Doug is a smart guy. When Doug is on his A game, Doug is on his A game. But he can't be on his game when he's – when you have so many people hovering over you. I hate when I'm at a computer and somebody's hovering like right over me.
He got hired.
I'm sorry?
I think he's been looking over his shoulder since he got hired.
He has to have. But now,
you got another head coach on the roster, on the coach staff, Jim Schwartz.
And then the Mike Lombardi, Jim Schwartz thing that happened the summer before the Super Bowl.
I mean, you had another one in Frank Reich, who now everybody wants back because, it's not like –
But it wasn't Frank, though. It was John being hard on Wentz. Yeah. That's different.
And then there's another thing is Wentz too stubborn to take help because, apparently Flip was too stern on him and he didn't like that. So –
do you really believe that, like, out of Wentz's demeanor? Like, the kid doesn't seem like that type of guy.
Yeah, but they've never seen that type of guy until we find out there's that type of guy. So it's like, oh, I could see that. But, we had all these rumors about Carson and Alshon not getting along. And, there's been just so much smoke around this team that for it not to have a little bit
there's
of
too much drama around this
fire or something. But speaking of fired, Jim Schwartz, get the fuck out of here. Get out. I'm done. I'm done with it. Last year on this podcast, I was almost every week I said Jim Schwartz leave, Jim Schwartz leave, Jim Schwartz leave. And the last 4 games of the season, I was like, okay, now that we know that he's going to get his players, let's see what he can do with his players. And what happens, they get Darius Slay, they get Javon Hargrave, they get Will Parks, who has not played yet, I know. The draft looked very Jim-centric with speed, with tacklers, with undersized –
we haven't seen Davion Taylor.
With undersized linebackers that Jim loves so much, Nate Gary.
Oh, my God.
If you draft Kayvon Wallace, who was – Pro Football Focus, and say what you want about Pro Football Focus, because they have Rasul Douglas as 10th best corner in the league right now. And Ronald Darby is 13th, and Darius Slay is like the 50-something. So
and LJ4 is one of the top linebackers in the league. I just want to put that out
there. So you get hit your players, and you draft Pro Football Focus's best tackling safety and one of the best coverage safeties in Kayvon Wallace. You draft a project, fine, Davion Taylor, but it's not like he's brand new to football. Like he played football in college. Who has the speed? Sean Bradley has speed. Casey Toohill got 22 snaps last week, and the week before Sean Bradley got snaps. So they're the only 2 defensive rookies to get snaps in a game right now. And then you have
Kayvon's got some snaps. He got first week.
Maybe there, but the majority special teams. Mm-hmm. And last week, Kayvon had a fumble recovery for the brand, Flippin Birds. So, and another for the brand, Graylon Arnold was protected.
I'm expecting to see him make his debut this Sunday. I want to see that.
I'm ready to explode if he does. So there's so many pieces here for them to be absolutely horrible on defense right now.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I wrote this article that I can now regret. They're historic right now. It's a great season, and blah blah blah. And then they get their asses whooped. And I was looking at Football Outsiders and the defensive line or the defensive drive. Sorry. So I'm looking at rushing yards, and they have a percentage.
They can't stop the run for nothing this season.
They're one of two extremes right now. They either stop the ball behind the line of scrimmage,
mm-hmm.
or they let it go for a big game. Right now, the Eagles, according to Football Outsiders, they're fourth in the league in stuffed percentage. They stuff the run 24% of the time.
Okay.
They are third in the league in second level. And second level are runs that end up being 5 to 10 yards. And so they're third in the league
mm-hmm.
in that.
You saw that all day Sunday with Henderson and Brown before Brown got injured.
But they're 22nd in the league in open field yards. And those are yards that are 10 yards or more. So right now it's either stop the ball behind the line of scrimmage or maybe a 2-yard gain, or they're breaking it loose for 15, 20, 25-yard gain. There's no in between. So, and that is because we have no linebackers that can stop the run.
There's no
Once they get through the hole, whatsoever. That's it.
Did you see Tyler Higbee just burn Nate Gary?
I could burn Nate Gary.
Do you understand that if you actually look at Nate Gary's stats, he has not forced an incompletion at all this season?
I can burn Nate Gary. I'm very confident that me, who has to go back to the chiropractor tomorrow because I have hips that won't lie right now because they're very burning. They're on fire every day, and I have to get acupuncture in my hips and in my back. I'm pretty sure I can burn Nate Gary for a touchdown right now.
Why is he starting is my question. Why is Nate Gary still in the game or even in this team?
Because I guess he has blackmail on Jim or Howie or something.
But we have TJ Edwards, who barely sees the field. We have Davion Taylor, who barely sees the field. We even have Kayvon Wallace, who could play that linebacker role and give you speed and coverage. Why is it that we, the media, we, the fans, know so much more than the actual coaching staff and the actual ownership knows?
Before this year, and Jim's 18 years in the league, he's had a top 10 passing defense 3 times.
None of them with the Eagles.
3 times. None with the Eagles in yards. He had 2. He had 1 top 10 in touchdown passes in 2018, and they were 8th. And he had 2 top 10 in interceptions in 2016, 2017. But then you go 25th, 22nd, and 26th the next few years. This year they're 26th. This year they're 5th in yards, but that's because the Eagles have been thrown against, the 4th fewest in the league. They have 58 passing attempts against them because you can run all over them. So when you look at these stats, like, oh, great, they have a really good passing defense. It's because, first of all, the opposing teams are starting on the 41-yard line on average, and that's the 30th worst in the league. Or let's say the 3rd worst, I guess, 3rd worst, or 30th best, however you want to say. 3rd worst, 41-yard line. So they're pretty much at midfield when the offense gets the ball. The offense on the other side, they're starting at like the 23rd yard line, and that's bad also. But so they have 60 yards to 59 yards, give or take, to defend for a touchdown. So okay, great, they're 5th in the league in passing yards. It's because they have half the field to defend instead of the full field. So of course they're going to be low on the yard side, whereas every other team has to guard the whole field. But like, I'm just tired of the excuses. I will give him credit that he took ownership today.
He actually did.
But at the same time, he pretty much confirmed that this is the players that he wanted. So like, And I just, like he said, that he came in with a too simple game plan. If this defense can handle a too simple game plan, how are you going to make it complex? Like, and maybe he meant it like simple as in, okay, Darius Slay is here, don't move.
There was no
Roby Coleman,
creativity.
you're here,
Right.
don't move. And that's it. When you should be really masking stuff. And we have the Adam Kaplan quote from Inside the Birds, and I'll get it to you right now, the exact quote. And the exact quote was from Adam Kaplan. I'm getting all my information from people from other teams. They all say the same thing. It's the easiest defense to figure out. They do not disguise. So whatever you're seeing out there is what you're getting with Jim Schwartz.
Mhm.
And it's ridiculous.
Which is terrible. This, I mean, we're pretty much playing Madden out here. But okay, we let off all the steam. We talked about last week. You guys, Chris is very frustrated with Jim Schwartz and the defense. I am very frustrated with the ownership.
But you know what I'm not frustrated with? Balls. And balls, and I say that because we use manscaped.com. Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0. Best blade out there. Best buzzer out there. Go to manscaped.com. Use our code FLIPPINTHEBIRDS, not FTB. The initials Flippin' the Bird. FTB at checkout. 20% off, free shipping, and you get a free gift. There's no lose here.
It's a win-win situation, unlike
a
what the
win-win
Eagles have been
situation
facing.
for you, your balls, but not the birds, because they need a whole lot of different things over there to fix them.
And that's code FTB at manscaped.com to get 20% off plus free shipping. Now, joining us today, as we will be facing the Cincinnati Bengals this coming Sunday, is John Sheeran of the Cincy Jungle. Hey, John, how you doing today, man?
I am great. How about you guys?
We're
Good,
doing
good.
great. We're just getting ready for Joey Burrow to drop 600 on us.
It's a light day.
So how you feeling so far about the Bengals and how they're looking so far?
Well, the record's not great.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 0-10 in close losses going back to when Zach Taylor was hired. So it's more the same from last year, but just with a better quarterback. Defense added a lot of players. They changed a lot of personnel, and there's still very serious issues in terms of just basic stuff, specifically with the pass rush just not being able to get home. But like last year, they didn't have a chance because they didn't have a quarterback. This year, they do have a chance to be competitive in close games like they've played. But it's just, I mean, it's still it needs to come together. And like I don't think most rational Bengals fans were expecting them to go to the playoffs this year. But I think
Hold on. Let me interrupt you. Are there rational Bengals fans?
No, I should have rephrased that. I think 6 or 7 wins was like the rational high end expectation, and right now it's still possible to get that, but 0-2 is not the greatest start.
It was interesting because both of our teams seem to be getting to that 6 or 7 wins point game in the season right now. But right now, you guys have to be.
This game's gonna end in a tie.
It better not. You guys have to be salivating as to how this run defense has looked so far, and I mean, this offense, how terrible we've looked so far as well.
I was gonna say, like, are you talking about the Bengals run defense?
No, I'm talking about how bad the Eagles run defense has looked, how bad the Eagles offense has looked. I mean, both previous teams that we faced have had great field position against us, which could work, to your benefit on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's the Eagles pass rush that would worry me if I'm a member of the Bengals organization, because, I mean, I think it was just released today. Brandon Ingram and Malik Jackson are both top 10 at their respective positions in terms of pass rush win rate. Josh Sweat is looking like the player that I think a lot of us thought he was going to be coming out of that 2018 draft. And, of course, the guy we didn't mention is Fletcher Cox, who I think is a better defensive tackle when healthy than Geno Atkins at this point in their respective careers. So that defensive line still scares the crap out of me. And the fact that the Bengals offensive line still looks like the worst in the league, I think it's the biggest overall mismatch in this game. And that's even with Carson Wentz playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I think that gives the Bengals a chance in this game, and maybe Joe Mixon can get something going for the first time this season, because like you said, it's just a middling run defense, I guess, compared to the rest of the league. But it's like that pass rush would still scare me, and it's why I think it's not as easy of a win as some Bengals fans may think it is.
Hold on. Bengals fans think this is an easy win. Have we really stooped that low? I'm sorry,
think we have.
Obviously, the Bengals have their history of, losing and all that. It's like coming into this game, I feel like for me, and when I was doing my season predictions, obviously, I hope they go 16-0. But even like looking at this game, it just reminds me so much of the Miami game that they played last year when we was like, oh, it's definitely a win, and we'll get back on track. Boom, smacked by 37 points. And, it's just because, Joey Burrow, rookie record for completions last week with 37, and 61 passes is ridiculous. 61, it's crazy. I'm not sure. Off topic, kind of on topic. When you're done here, I need you to look up our founder, Liam Jenkins, and tell me that you're not convinced that Joey and Liam were not separated at birth as twins, because they're exactly the same. They look exactly the same.
I feel compelled to look this up right now.
You know what, Brian? Let me share my screen.
All right, let me get to this. All right, go for it.
All right, so let me share my screen here. My Twitter's coming up now.
Liam's gonna end up firing us for this.
That's fine.
At some point.
Now, so is this it here? Let's see. Nope, that's not it, Liam. So let's see. So this is Liam. This is Liam here.
It's the hair that first gets me.
It is.
Yeah.
Liam. And we're not quite sure if anybody's seen him and Joe Burrow in the same room at the same time. So we're pretty much convinced that they are. And I'll try to get a better picture while we're talking. But
I think he has a side-by-side picture of him and Joe Burrow on his Twitter.
But Joe Burrow's the real deal, man. Like
he's not a scrub at all.
It's like you look at all these number one overall picks, and especially Baker, and then Goff up until this year, apparently, because I guess we're back to quarterbacks revitalizing their careers when they face the Eagles. So it's like these number one picks the last few years have been like, okay. But Burrow, I feel like he has all the tools to be that guy. And
I think so.
And with Tyler Boyd, I haven't seen. Is AJ Green healthy the last 2 games?
So Green, he doesn't look it, and I think most of it is with the fact that he's 32 and he hasn't played it. He didn't play an NFL game for over 600 days before 2 Sundays ago, and he played his first 2 games back on 5 days. So I think it was rust, and obviously age is why he looks as washed as we think he is. But I think it's still a little bit too early to tell what exactly his case is. But with Burrow, like I think Derek Klassen said it best on Twitter. Like, you don't put a rookie quarterback into empty protection 20 times in one game if you think he's not capable of mentally processing everything. And I think from that standpoint, it's been nothing but flying colors. So like when evaluating his games, like he's making like 90% of his decisions are good decisions, and the bad decisions have been really bad. Like that interception against the Chargers, a close fumble against the Chargers. And I think he fumbled away a snap against the Browns because he tried to call timeout. So he's still making the rookie mistakes that you would expect rookies to make. But in terms of just decision-making and mental processing, he's as good as you can expect from a rookie at this point.
I have a question. It's more of a missing poster. Do you guys at all use John Ross? I feel like he went off last year.
John Ross,
pretty hot, and then just disappeared.
AKA the player that's always traded to the Eagles by Eagles Twitter. Like, it's always like whenever they need speed, maybe the Bengals have John Ross available. Like every year since he was drafted.
I would take Tyler Boyd.
Ever since
Tyler
he ran that 4.19 or whatever it was, like Eagles were salivating like, oh, speed. And it's like no matter how many injuries he got, no, don't worry, he'll be fine with the Eagles. even they act like every player that's come to the Eagles hasn't broken their arm in 5 different places.
Yeah. The Eagles might be able to sign him in the 2021 offseason because I don't think he's coming back to Cincinnati. It's like if you take him off the field, you're removing an obvious speed threat, and you're potentially handicapping how opposing defenses face implement coverages with you. But when targeting him, it's just been anything but reliable. It's not to the point where he's not talented, because we have seen flashes of that. It's like, is he mentally there? And maybe a change of scenery would be the best for him. He didn't start his career off on the best terms. I think he was in Marvin Lewis' doghouse in like week 2 of his rookie season, and then injuries happened as well. So it's been by far like the worst start of a career that you would expect from a top 10 wide receiver pick. And maybe a change of scenery to a team like the Eagles would do him good. But if you take him off the field, you're potentially hampering your defense. But at the same time, you're just not getting any actual tangible production from him, which sucks.
Yeah, I remember we used to have that last year and the year before, called Nelson Aguilar.
Ooh.
Looks pretty decent in Las Vegas right now. A lot of former Eagles look decent in a lot of places.
Yeah, let's not talk about that, because you're going to bring me back to a bad place.
Before you came on, we had a very long rant about
Jim Schwartz.
Everything wrong with the organization.
Speaking of, staying on the wide receiver topic, speaking of the psychotic Eagles fans, Eagles Twitter, before the draft, when obvious need for the Eagles was wide receiver. And a popular name on the good side and the bad side was T. Higgins. Was he a great receiver for Clemson, or was he kind of just there and a product of everything else around him? Or does he have speed? Can he separate and all that? What have you seen from T. Higgins in his couple games, and even the training camp? Is he legit?
I think on field he looks the part. I wasn't the biggest fan of his coming out, because I think because everyone was talking about he tied DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins touchdown record at Clemson and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But he was still the number 2 receiver when Justin Ross was on the field, and I think that kind of matters in terms of evaluating how wide receivers can progress in the NFL. He never really had true number 1 production at Clemson, and he didn't really test very well. And I think some people attribute that to a hamstring injury or whatever. But there were definitely question marks, I think, on his evaluation. But I think the Bengals made a good pick at the top of the second round with him. And by the way, I really like Jalen. Is it Rieger or Rager?
It's Rager.
I loved him coming out. And
I'm trying to refine my Photoshop skills, because I want to put his head on a Targaryen and have him be Rhaegar Targaryen and just do that. And I suck at it.
So I just wanted to put that, because I think he's still going to be a good player, even if he hasn't shown it in 2 weeks in the NFL. But with Higgins, I think he started in week 2 against the Browns over John Ross and over Auden Tate, who wasn't even active for week 2. So it seemed like it was only a matter of time before he was going to get significant snaps in the Bengals offense, and I think that's going to continue. He only had 3 catches with Burrow, and there's some definite timing issues with him because they're both rookies and whatnot. But as the season progresses, I think he's going to develop into a solid starter. And I think for a second round pick at the receiver position, I think that's a lot that you can get out of that.
Completely understandable. So this Sunday, from your offensive standpoint, what do you feel like the Bengals have to do in order to beat this Eagles team?
I think they just have to if the Eagles use any stunts in terms of just pressuring Burrow, the Bengals offense line is going to.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Oh, they're just going to rush 4 just straight up the field.
Because there was a quote that came out by Adam Kaplan, the NFL reporter Adam Kaplan, that he spoke to, and we don't know how true this is. Adam Kaplan can't lie. He's an enemy of us non-blue check marks because he doesn't like bloggers and internet scouts and all that. But
it seems like that.
Even though he originated as a blogger, but let's not for that. Yeah,
but he worked at Kmart or some shit. But that I digress. So he said that he's talked to coaches and people around the league that said Jim Schwartz's defense right now is the easiest to figure out because he doesn't do any adjustments. And he came out today in his press conference taking ownership for the shit show that was last week. And he said, he put his players in bad positions. He pretty much said that by the third drive, it was too late to adjust anything. And I'm just that was just the third drive. How is it too late? But let's just keep doing the same thing that's going wrong, I guess. But anyways, so don't worry about it. Joe Burrow might be able to see okay, Avonte Maddox is right there. He's going to stay right there. And Darius Slay's going to be – I'm not going to throw that way because that's Darius Slay. So I'm just going to pick on Nickel Roby-Coleman, who sucks right now. So it's and I'm very jealous of your linebacking situation.
Really? Did you watch Thursday night?
because I love Akeem Davis-Gaither and I love Logan Wilson. Like those two players. Akeem Davis-Gaither is a graduate of the Flippin' the Birds pod. We interviewed him back in March.
Wow.
And he came on here, and so it was we tried to get linebackers that we thought the Eagles would be interested in.
Well, actually, they were
legitimately interested in him, and then they decided to go the Davion Taylor route, who recently started playing football, whatever. And Akeem Davis-Gaither he just struck a chord with me where it's like he's a leader. And I feel like he's going to be that kind of guy. Is that what you've seen from him? Logan Wilson was another one that was like, this guy's going to be really good. What have you seen? I know they probably haven't shown it yet, like skill-wise, but like, have you seen that trending?
So they are both getting a lot of snaps on passing downs. It's mainly been Josh Bynes, the acquired in free agency, and Jermaine Prater, they drafted last year. They're in base and first and second down, and the Browns like torched them in play action and in coverage. They exposed the crap out of them, so they had no choice but to play Davis-Gaither and Wilson last week. And Wilson was terrible in run fits. He got the bulk of like the snaps. Replacing those two starters, and he just did not look good at all. He could not get off the block to save his life. Davis-Gaither has been used pretty similarly to how he was in App State. So he was like that, like just a versatile overhang defender who can also play on the edge. He played a little bit in the slot, and he's been okay. He just hasn't really been tested that much in run defense or in coverage, really. He's been blitzing a decent amount. He's got like a handful of pressure so far. So he's been better than Wilson, but he's been asked to do less than Wilson in terms of just like run defending, and that's why Wilson's getting exposed. But yeah, going back to Burrow and like the offense, like if they can just, as long as the Eagles defensive line doesn't completely destroy the Bengals offensive line, I think that they can have more consistent success against this defense, because it's, I mean, I don't think the Eagles secondary is really scaring the Bengals offense right now. And that's just the biggest question. If they can protect Burrow consistently and they're able to stay in empty sets, which is where he's had the most success in the first 2 weeks, I think they can still put up enough points. And but I mean, there's still so much more to see from this entire linebacking core in order to get a good gauge on where they are.
I would say if you're listening right now and you're looking for a fantasy tight end, start Drew Sample, because Tyler Higbee just abused Nate Gerry last week. Nate Gerry, he's just like, he's looking this way when everything's already going on over there, and it's like, what the hell are you doing? So Drew Sample might be in for a career day, because our linebackers can't cover tight ends for.
Well, I can also flip that around, because didn't Goddard and Ertz have like 20 targets? Yeah,
well, Goddard and Ertz, they kind of do that to everybody. But it's like, especially, Ertz not so much anymore. That's a little bit of a sore subject. Like Ertz, I think he had more yards last week,
and
but Goddard was targeted more, and it's been trending that way the last 2 weeks, and that I don't think that's kind of a coincidence with his contract situation, and he had comments before the first game of the season where he kind of like said he's being disrespected by Howie Roseman. It's getting ugly. It's getting ugly here. So like if the Eagles lose to the Bengals, this whole thing's blown up. Like, it's just because then they got the Niners, then they got the Steelers, then they got the Ravens, then they get a break with the Giants, then they get the Cowboys. It's
a rough schedule. You can tell Chris is going through it right now.
It's the NFC East though. Like the winner is going to be 7-9, right?
Yeah, most likely.
I'm saying 6-10. I'm saying 6-10.
Yeah, that's bold. That's not bad.
They're gonna break the record for the worst record to win a division, whoever it is, because the Cowboys have the Seahawks next week, so it's like they're gonna lose. Hopefully Seattle doesn't pull in Atlanta. Giants lost Saquon. They have no chance. Washington's Washington. I know they beat us, whatever. But like, what do you think as a Bengals writer, fan, everything? You see what's going on in the North. See, the Steelers got Big Ben back, and who knows how long he's going to be there. But their defense is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Watt is on a whole other world, and they have my man crush, Minka Fitzpatrick. Ravens, obviously, they had a phenomenal draft, in my opinion. I love Patrick Queen coming out. And I just don't get how you allow J.K. Dobbins to go on an offense like that. But and then you have the other team that's blanking out of my head right now.
The Browns?
Browns. That you have, no matter how bad Baker Mayfield is, you still have OBJ, you still have Jarvis Landry, you still have Austin Hooper, you still have Kareem Hunt, and you still have Nick Chubb. And a pretty damn good defense. So what do you think the Bengals need to do to get back to the prime Andy Dalton days where you're making the playoffs and you're winning the division? And Hugh Jackson looks like, or Marvin Lewis. Sorry, Marvin Lewis looks like he's the man.
And losing the first round. That's a very important part there.
That too.
Yeah. They're the worst team until they're not. Like, I think Thursday was a potential statement to not assert dominance over the Browns, but like convince people that they have at least eclipsed that. But like you said, the Browns still have a ton of talent, and that was the perfect game for them to say, we still have a really talented roster. We just need to get our shit together. And the Bengals are the perfect opponent to do that against, which is what makes this game interesting, because it's two teams looking to do that same thing, but they're not in the same universe as the Ravens. And with the Steelers getting Big Ben back, like, they're a legitimate playoff team. Like, that I'm fearing for my life for Joe Burrow when he has to go against the Steelers defensive line. I think TJ Watt might stack him 4 times because he is in another world, and he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year if everything goes right. They're just fighting to not be last right now. And I think that should have been the expectation for 2020. And 2021 is like the real year. Like, okay, maybe they can somewhat fix the offense line and put something together here. But 2020 is just not the year for them to ever have done that, because the Ravens are they're easily the best team in the league right now, unless you want to put Seattle in that discussion. And yeah, like, it's if it's not the best division in football, it's definitely the best division in the AFC. And they're just not really close right now, regardless of how much they spend in free agency, regardless of the fact that they have a first overall pick at quarterback. They're just not there yet.
If the Bengals have the second overall pick, are you picking Sewell from Oregon, like the outstanding offensive tackle prospect that apparently no one's seen since Joe Thomas? Or are you pairing Burrow with his buddy Jamar Chase?
That's tough, because I don't. My confidence in Green returning is very minimal at this point. And I don't think Ross is coming back either. So there is definite questions at receiver. But like, their first and only goal this year should be getting Burrow out of the 2020 season alive and not damaged beyond repair, David Carr style. And if it continues to be this bad, I don't know how you pass up on the best tackle prospect in, like you said, 10 years. Even as tempting as Chase may be, and how smart that could be, because if you want to get into arguing how to quantify how valuable each player is, I think some people would say that like a true number one receiver might be more valuable than just one tackle, because the tackle is just a part of the offensive line, and one weak link on the offensive line can just destroy you anyways. But like, they cannot go into 2021 with Bobby Hart as their starting tackle, and if they have the chance to take Sewell, I don't see a great argument other than Chase of how you go against that.
Okay, so to gear it back, just you already said what you believe Cincinnati needs to do to beat the Eagles, pretty much, which is it's very possible. Still early in the season, anything can happen, obviously, which has shown so far in many games. From your perspective, what do you feel like are the keys of the game for the Eagles to beat the Bengals?
Yeah, and to preface, I don't think this is an easy win for the Bengals. I don't think most Bengals fans think that, but if they did think that, those are the reasons why. But the Eagles just have to win with 4 rushers, or just win the pass rush. Like, do whatever you need to do to beat Bobby Hart and Fred Johnson. It's not that hard. Like, you can easily destroy the Bengals' right side of the offensive line, completely disrupt whatever game plan that they have. Like, as questionable as the Eagles secondary is, if you're able to get home and with 4 rushers, like, the Bengals receivers right now just haven't been doing a good job of generating and creating separation. AJ Green just still needs to prove that he's actually not washed, and John Ross needs to get his head in the game. And then, even with the Eagles not having 3 projected starters on the offensive line, they still have the better offensive line in this game. They can run over the Bengals defensive line if Geno Atkins and Mike Daniels are still out, and we don't know if they're going to practice later this week or not. But I think Miles Sanders can end up having a decent game if it was any inclination of what we saw with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So Carson Wentz doesn't even have to bounce back to be like a great quarterback this game. He can just not turn the ball over and not make mistakes, rely on Miles Sanders, and I think they can still pull out on top. They're 6-point favorites for a reason. It's because the Bengals are just as bad as the Eagles are. Like, the Bengals still have a lot of problems, maybe even more problems than the Eagles themselves.
It's crazy to think.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of problems, I kind of have a problem with you drinking a Bud Light. Are you a Bud Light drinker, or
this is the drink when you're talking about 2-0-2 teams playing in September?
Because I say that because I think it's just water to me. Bud Light.
It is water. It's 100% water.
And we're sponsored by an app called Tavour, Tavour, and it's a craft beer app. And listeners at home use FTB10, $10 off your purchase is $25 or more. I have a beer called Velocity of Light. It's a double dry hopped oat IPA. Oat. And it's kind of weird, but it's really fucking good. So like that's my thing. Like, when I see Bud Light, I'm like, it's my last resort. No, I wouldn't say last resort, because Natty Ice is my last resort. And Keystone, it's like that brings me back to college when we were buying kegs of Keystone, and we were upcharging people $10 at the door to offset our cost of buying like a $60 keg of Keystone, and we were making profits like crazy. And it's just like, ugh, like who enjoys that? And it brings me back to bad memories. Just like seeing a quarterback of Joe Burrow's ability brings me back to bad memories of last week.
It was either this or a beer that's brewed in Cincinnati called Rheingeist. It's a pretty popular craft brewery around here. They have an IPA called Truth, which I really enjoyed that. So I gotta go Bud Light when we're talking about bad football.
Anything that gets you drunk.
You don't waste the good stuff on bad football.
Exactly.
Actually, for me, I go higher proof. Just so it could knock
It's also
me out
fair.
Faster. Like when they were losing to Washington, we were doing a live podcast down in.
I don't know how many pictures we went through.
I was just pictures and pictures and pictures, and just like
Well, like, did you see that coming though? Because it was a blown lead, right? It was a blown multiple score lead.
They were up 17-0.
Yeah,
it was a reverse of last year. Last year, first game of the season, they were down 17-0 to Washington, and they came back and won. This year, they were up 17-0, and we're like, "Oh, okay, great start. Wait, no, stop, no, don't do that. Enough, stop, please. Okay, we suck." Like, it's just. But then, like, I wrote an article about how historic the Eagles' defense started because Washington's offense sucks. But it's like they only allowed 3.4 yards per play. They only allowed 178 passing yards. They allowed 80 rushing yards, and like only a handful of teams in the league history only have done that before. But they were, out of all of the teams that done it, they were like the only team to lose a game like that. And it's like, shit, like this defense can be really good if only the offense keeps up. And then the Rams happen, and I'm just like, I'm stupid.
Well, luckily it's still early. Luckily we do have a matchup where one team actually has to have a win. Both teams cannot lose. So John,
hold on, pause. Here, ready? Bringing this back. So here's Joey.
You were looking the whole time?
Here's Joey. And here is teenager Liam Jenkins. On the left.
Both good-looking dudes, I know.
Oh, Liam's now blushing. Like, he's listening to this. Now he's gonna write us a whole soppy speech about this. Like there's Joe. And there's Liam.
I mean, one's better looking than the other, but
we're not gonna say who. We're not gonna say who.
We're not gonna get into politics. As I was saying, John, what's your prediction for the outcome of this Sunday's game, where one team actually has to win the game? Both teams can't lose it. They technically
can tie.
Yes,
I mean, back in 2008.
Oh,
exactly.
McNabb did not know they can tie.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you're a professional football player and not know that you can tie.
It's like if you're a professional football player on the hands team, you didn't know you can touch the onside kick.
Oh my God, Atlanta.
Wow. Like, somebody explain that to me. Like, what were they doing?
You just needed to recover that ball. And
they were the ones receiving it. Were they not? Like, why are you staring at the ball like that?
It's prime falconing, but I believe the spread is like 6 favoring the Eagles.
6.5 around there.
Yeah. So I think the Bengals cover. I don't know if I will go all the way to say that they win because I still, again, I still think the Eagles' offense line's better. I still think it's a good chance for that offense to bounce back. And I'm not saying Carson Wentz is going to rule the world again like he did in 2017 or whatever, but he can still play a decent game and
Don't
be
tug on my heart like that, John. Don't do it.
he can be better than what he is right now because right now it looks like pure garbage. And just because that Eagles defensive line still scares me. And I think the Bengals will still have success on offense because I think they can exploit that secondary. I think it'll be a game like the 50s, maybe even the 60s, maybe like a 30-27 Eagles win. I think that's what I'll go with.
Okay. I don't have that much confidence in the Eagles scoring that much because of how the offense has looked so condensed in the past 2 weeks. But I'll go with something light, like probably like a 24-17 Eagles win.
Who are your corners?
William Jackson, Darius Phillips, Mackenzie Alexander.
42-35. I'm saying 35 because the defense sucks. But I think because I saw William Jackson do what he did against OBJ, and it wasn't that great. So it's like I feel like Deshaun Jackson maybe, but definitely Raygor can do stuff like that to corners who aren't that fundamentally sound. And it's like I want to believe that this is the explosion that's supposed to be coming. But then on the other side, again, Joey Burrow, I'm ready for him to throw 40 times, not even 60 times, 40 times and complete 33 of them. And I'm ready for Joe Mixon to run all over this defense. And T. Higgins he's gonna catch 3 touchdowns. I guarantee it.
3?
3
Wow.
touchdowns. Like
what kind of fantasy game you having?
Tyler Higbee caught 3 touchdowns.
That's still McVay though.
If they
and that is McVay, yes.
If Schwartz thinks that Nate Gary can guard Tyler Higbee, I'm sure they're going to be like, you know what, go guard T. Higgins.
They're not going to do that. No way. You can't do that. It's just there's not enough stupidity in the world for you to do that.
Are you sure? Because
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think you can
ask
say
me
that about
a week from now, and I'll let you know my real
that we have, or the fact that we have a linebackers coach as a defensive line coach. Like maybe it's better than having the offensive line coach as a defensive coordinator that they had like Juan Castillo years ago. But we're fitting square pegs in needle-sized holes.
Welcome to the Bengals offensive line.
Well, John, thank you for dealing with our madness today. For all our listeners, man, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at John2_Sheeran. You can find my work at Cincy Jungle. We do the podcast, the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. We previewing the Eagles game tomorrow. And just real quick, I want to say Eagles have always been my NFC East team because you guys have always rostered a lot of UC Bearcats, or just more than just the average NFL team. UC was my school. I just graduated there last year. So big Jason Kelsey fan, big Red selection. Marty Giller was on that team in 2012 too. So they had like at least 3 or 4 Bearcats teams.
I was supposed to interview Brian Wright coming into this year, and he never emailed me back. Like his agent.
You have a lot of tension today.
we had everything set up. Like his agent was contacting, our Joe Burrow, and we had that all set up. And I was like, okay, just email Brian at this. And I was like, hey Brian, just want to, because we're doing a whole thing on linebackers. You want to come on? And he never got back to me. And
I'll have to get on for that.
He didn't get drafted, right?
I don't think so. No.
See what happens when you don't come on the pod. We had Akeem Davis-Gaither. We had Justin Sternad, who was on the Broncos. He's out for the season now. So
yeah, but one of my favorite interviews, we didn't get drafted.
We cursed him. We had Reed Harrison. We had a cornerback, Reed Harrison Ducro, who did not get drafted. He was a really good kid. But we also had Kayvon Wallace on in May after he was drafted, and we had Brian Dawkins on at the end of July. And now I'm in this kind of weird time in my life where I'm just getting ghosted by all these athletes. I'm being left unseen by athletes. It's hard right now. So I'm just trying to hope that my frustration doesn't boil over by continuous Eagles losses. 42-35.
There we go.
Well, John, you should be thankful that you don't have to worry about this big guy over here. Got a lot to take care of. You're a little emotional today. You're scaring me.
It's Jim Schwartz's fault. I hate
feel
him.
that.
I hate him.
All right. Well, John, again, thanks for coming on today. It was definitely a pleasure, and we're looking forward to
Thank you.
Sunday's game.
And feel free. Listen. We had Zachary Neal from Washington Wire in the first week. We had Joe McAtee from Beyond the Horns for the Rams last week, and they both felt free to kind of like trash us afterwards.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If the Eagles lose, it's all yours, man. Just come after us.
It's all fair game.
It's
Everybody.
fine. Like we'll try to be nice to you if we win, but like it's kind of different because like if the Eagles beat the Bengals, like okay, finally they beat a team they were supposed to beat. But if the Bengals beat the Eagles, feel free to unleash because we deserve all of it.
Yeah, I'll have to get out the heavy alcohol for that, I guess.
Yeah. So the Coors Light's gonna come out next week.
yeah, exactly.
But until next week, guys, I'm Brian Cameron. He's Chris Infante, and this is Flipping the Birds.
Go Birds.
Yes, sir.